Hey everybody, in this video I'm going to be doing an overview of how to play Hyper Lightbreaker, which just came out in early access. So when I actually first jumped into this game, I was pretty surprised with the level of difficulty right off the bat and how unforgiving it is. However, once you do kind of spend some time with it and learn the system, it becomes a lot more manageable, and now I'm having quite a bit of fun with it. So I'll try and go over all the main aspects of the game to give you an idea of what Hyper Lightbreaker is all about, and if you are interested in giving it a try, or you're currently struggling, this will help get you going in the right direction. Starting off, I'll just cover an overview of what the general kind of gameplay loop is, and then get more details in the mechanics and things like that. And just a disclaimer, depending on when you're watching this video, since this is an early access title, some of this may change in the future. You'll start out in a hub world that contains a variety of characters where you can purchase upgrades and items. However, we'll come back to that in a bit. Right now we're heading to the telepad, which will take us to the overgrowth, which is where the main gameplay takes place. This will start what's called a cycle. You can see here I'm finishing up my previous cycle and getting an after action report, as well as a few rewards based on my performance. You have 4 total lives for each cycle, after which you can then purchase a reset for a small fraction of your resources, which will then generate a new world, and then you can restart the gameplay loop all over again. Upon entering the overgrowth at the start of a new cycle, you'll spawn into an underground bunker area. Running straight ahead, you'll find a corpse that gives you 1 random item drop to start off with, as well as a lift that takes you up to the surface. This is where the action begins, and you can start exploring the overgrowth as well as progressing towards your main objective, which is to defeat the Abyss King. This will require a bit of preliminary work though, as you'll first need to destroy the 3 crown bosses, which are locked behind a certain number of prisms that you need to find and collect. These bosses are also very challenging as well, so you'll want to spend some time exploring the world to find gear and items that will help upgrade your character. Each attempt in the overgrowth ends after you die, losing 1 of your 4 lives as well as some of your gear. However, you can also extract via a telepad exit, which will retain your life and gear. However, this first requires a final battle with multiple waves of enemies in a small arena before the exit will activate. So when you get into the overgrowth, there is a map that you can pull up that'll help navigate on, where things are and where you need to go. As you can see here, there's also that key on the right side. I'll kind of touch on the general aspects of this and then go into more detail as we get further into the video. And again, this is all procedurally generated on every new cycle, so this world and map will look different every new playthrough. Kind of breaking this into a couple different categories. The weapons and items and things that you can collect, you can see here. So this is where you can get a rail, which are the guns. And then the blades you can see here. So if you wanted to try and find a new blade, you could set a waypoint and head that way. Then you can see that on my mini map there and kind of head that way if you want to go after that. A couple other items, there's utilities, which I'll talk about in a little bit, but you can see that there, and then also equipment, which is going to be things like armor. So you can use this to kind of help navigate and set waypoints if you want to go try and find items and things like that for your character. And then for the main objectives, you can see the 3 crown bosses here. You see I defeated the first one, so he's got an X on his face. And then you can also see the number of prisms that you need to collect to unlock that particular boss. So this one, I've only collected 3 so far in this playthrough, so that one requires 6. So you can see I've got 3 of the 6 that I need. This one requires 4, so I just need to get 1 more prism, and then I could go take on that boss. And you can see those prisms with the yellow diamonds, and then also the blackout diamonds are the ones that I've already collected. Most prisms are held by a small mini-boss and a few minions. Once defeated, you can then collect the prism. However, there are some that you can just collect by navigating to its location. The remaining points on the map, so there are these stashes that kind of look like treasure chests. Those are going to give you items that will help upgrade your character, which I'll touch on. There's also the shrines that are really important. That's where you can get health refills. And then also the vendor here that you can see, which will have a variety of items that you can buy from him. And then finally, the extraction point. So if you want to get back to the hub world without wasting 1 of your lives, you can head to the extraction point and do that kind of mini battle to exit and keep all your gear. So as you set off to whatever location you choose, you'll want to take advantage of a few different movement mechanics. First, you can double jump and dash both horizontally and vertically, which will allow you to get over gaps and climb hills. However, you do have a stamina meter in the bottom left corner. It refills rather quickly, but does limit your repeated use of this ability. The amount of stamina pips you have can also change based on your current items and character setup. You also have a hoverboard you can pull out by holding down the dash button, which will allow you to traverse large areas rather quickly. This also has a stamina meter of sorts as well, but lasts quite a while and also refills quickly. Strangely though, you can't swim in the game, so you'll need to use your hoverboard to cross any water. Landing in water without it will just simply teleport you back to your most recent land-based location. There's no penalty other than that, as far as I can tell. You don't lose health or anything. So the inability to swim just seems kind of like an unneeded inconvenience. It's not a major obstacle, but most maps will have sections separated by water that you'll need to cross. And as you saw in that last clip, you can also utilize a glider while in the air that can be incredibly useful for navigating around the map as well. Both to cross rivers as well as to get down from a variety of towers and structures you'll find scattered around the overgrowth. There is fall damage, so you'll want to utilize this when jumping from larger heights to safely get back down to the ground. You can also time your deployment of the glider shortly before landing to speed up your descension. Finally, you'll also find jump pads scattered around the map that will launch you up into the air. Using this in combination with the glider as well as the other movement mechanics allows for pretty efficient travel. The maps aren't necessarily large, but I found myself able to get everywhere I needed to go pretty quickly. I never really dreaded a trek across the map because I was on one side of the overgrowth and where I needed to go was on the complete opposite side. The overgrowth itself also has a few interesting traits as well. First, you'll want to keep an eye on the yellow gauge right below the minimap. As you progress through a run and defeat enemies, this will gradually fill up, which increases the difficulty and hostility of the world. At each tick mark, you'll get an event that will spawn in a pack of enemies and a potential meteor shower that will block off and create hazard zones across the map. Early on, this isn't that big of a deal. However, once you get halfway full in that gauge, a boss kind of like enemy will spawn in and begin chasing you down. You can see this on the minimap indicated by that large skull. These are pretty tough fights if you aren't prepared, but if you do defeat them, you'll get a random item drop. Alright, so now taking a look at all of the items and weapons and resources that you can find throughout the game. Opening up my inventory screen, you can pretty much see all of that in one spot, which is nice. I'll just kind of do a quick overview of all of this stuff, and then as I talk about the combat and like the upgrade progression system, get into a little bit more detail. But starting at the top here, we've got hollow bites, and these are basically like perks or additional benefits or abilities you can add to your character. For example, you see this one gives me a plus 5% to my crit chance. This one here gives me an extra stamina pip. So there's a ton of these that you'll find, and you get 5 total. So if you find another one out in the overgrowth, you can kind of swap them out if you want to trade. But you get 5 total, and you'll get them from enemy drops and just kind of exploring the overgrowth. So you'll also notice all of these items have kind of little marks underneath the icon. So these all have 3. This one has 2, and then if you like take a look at my weapon, it's got 2, but one of them's grayed out. So that's basically the number of uses you have. So as you die, you'll lose a use. So the next time I die, this weapon will basically get destroyed and I'll have to replace it with another weapon. So it's kind of like the durability system. This is your class. I'll talk about that in a little bit later. This is like a special ability that you can pick up. Kind of just like an alternate attack. And then in terms of your main attacks, you have your blade, which is your main attack. And then you also have a weapon, which is called a rail. So those are your 2 main attacks. And so you can find weapons or guns and blades or rails and blades throughout the game. And there's a variety of different weapon types. So this is a heavy. There's like dual blades and there's a variety of different types. Each have their own kind of moveset and attacks. Same thing with the rails. There's like shotgun-y type guns and like SMGs and things like that. And then also you have an armor slot. So this you can see here gives you increased HP and armor, but also comes with some negatives as well. And all of these will have some like additional benefits as well. So like this has increased movement speed, and you know all of these will kind of come with perks and things like that as well, but you can read in the description for all of the items. And then moving down to resources and other items, so I'll quickly touch on these as well. Bright blood as well as material are kind of the main currency for the hub, where you can use them to purchase weapons and things like that. Bright blood you mainly get by defeating enemies, whereas material you'll get by looting boxes and things like that. Gold rations are primarily an upgrade currency, so you'll use it to purchase a variety of character upgrades. That's kind of the main reward that you get by completing cycles. I've also found a couple out in the overgrowth, but Mainly, that's kind of an end of cycle reward that you'll get. Abyss Stones, I've only gotten one of those, and that was from defeating a crown boss, so I'm not sure if there's other ways to get those, but that is also for some of your character upgrades that you'll use those. Keys, you'll find those out in the Overgrowth. There are a variety of like rooms and things that are locked behind keys, or locked doors, so you'll use those. And then finally, we've got Medigems. Those are for medkits. I'll talk a little bit more about that in the next section. And then finally, cores. So you'll find those mainly in stashes, and that is also used for character upgrades, which again, I'll kind of talk a lot about this when I get more into the character progression and upgrade system. And then finally, wrapping things up, you can also find merchants in the Overgrowth, which will sell a random assortment of items as well. There will typically be one which appears on the map. However, I've also found a few within locked structures, which sell additional things like keys, medikits, and core fragments. Now moving into combat and survivability. So I'll talk about how the combat system works. However, first I want to talk about health, as that was kind of immediately the first pain point that stood out to me when I started playing. So there are ways to regenerate your health and things like that within the Overgrowth, which I'll show. However, I was really confused on how the whole medkit system worked. So the one thing I would say you should probably prioritize right off the bat when you first start playing is to head over to this desk where you can do upgrades, and I'll talk about upgrades in the next section. But under this tab here is a upgrade tree, and you can see under tier 1 there is this medkit capacity unlock. So they don't do a great job explaining this, I don't think, but when you start the game, your medkit capacity is technically 0, and when you get this upgrade, it increases it to 1. So until you have this unlocked, you won't be able to use medkits essentially. So once you do have that upgraded, from then on, when you enter the Overgrowth, it'll first do an automated check to see if you have at least 3 Medigems in your inventory. If you do, it'll then convert those 3 into 1 medkit. Within the Overgrowth, you can find Medigems by interacting with these plants here. These will give you 1 Medigem as well as 5 HP. As you collect more Medigems, you can spend them at shrines to replenish your medkit slot as needed. However, each shrine appears to be a one-time use only, and the price increases after every purchase. It starts at 5, then increases to 8, and then 10 is as far as I've gone so far. Because of that, if you can, I would highly recommend just extracting with at least 3 Medigems in your inventory, and then you can re-enter the world. This will decrease the cost to 3 Medigems every time, essentially, by getting that one through the automated check when using the teleporter. There are also a variety of other ways to replenish health as well. You can occasionally find these orbs, which are in boxes and other drops, which give you 5 HP just like the plants do. Collecting prisms also give you a nice HP boost, so if you do have full health, it's a good idea to wait to collect those for when that health is needed. Also keep this in mind when fighting prism enemies, as it gives you a little bit of leeway to be aggressive in those fights, as you'll get that health refill after that fight is done. Finally, you can also get health from parrying. However, it doesn't seem like this works every time, so there may be some sort of limit there. You can also find items that improve healing from parrying as well. And speaking of parrying, that kind of leads us into taking a look at the combat system. So I'll try and cover all of the main mechanics of how attacks and the combat system works. However, it probably won't be fully comprehensive. I've picked up some items that like augment your attacks in ways and whatnot. So I'm not going to go that far. However, this should be enough to kind of get you through the mid game at least, and to, be able to defeat like that first crown boss, which is as far as I've gotten. So there may be some higher level techniques out there, but this should be enough to at least get you dangerous. So starting off, just for reference, there is a little bit of a basic combat tutorial that you can pull up here just for reference if needed. Just kind of goes through the basic attacks that you can do, as well as some more advanced techniques. So I'll basically just try and demonstrate all this stuff so you can see what it looks like in action and how it works. But starting off just kind of with the basics, you've got a variety of different attacks. You can see most of all that stuff down in the bottom right corner. You've got your blade, which is just your standard melee attack, and you can do combos, and this is going to vary based on what weapon type you have. So you can see here I'm using a heavy blade. If I've got like a spear or dual blades, the combos are going to look a little bit different. You can also do a charged attack, so if you attack and then hold down the button, that's what that looks like. And again, that heavy bladed charged attack is unique to that weapon type. You can use your gun if you have a gun. You can see that here, and then that uses batteries for ammo. So there's battery pickups around the map that you can refill that. You can refill your weapon at any time as well, so you can see that there. The kind of getting more into the advanced tips with your melee is what's called the flash step or flash attack. which looks like that. That can be used for staggering enemies, which I'll talk about here in a second. And then finally, you have your amp attack, which are the utilities on the map here. So I don't know if I have any. There's a utility here. So those are a variety of different perks. The one I have currently is the Shatter Gauntlet. Some of them will be like giving you an increase in armor for a couple seconds and increase your attack output. This is just like a straight up attack, so you can see what that looks like here. So it's kind of like a special attack you can do in addition to your melee with your blade and your range with your railgun. Your weapons will also have a special attack on them as well. So you can see the blade special here on this one. So for me, I have it as my left joystick. I press down on that and that will activate. It's kind of an area of effect blade sweeping attack. So again, you can kind of, if you're playing the game, go into your combat and it kind of explains all of that there. But now moving on to staggering, we'll try and find an enemy to demonstrate that. All right, so we've got a group of enemies here. You can see, you can lock on to enemies as well to kind of lock your camera on them if you want. And then switch around to, so I'm locked onto this guy here, and then you can kind of switch between characters as you can see. Obviously you can see their health bar. Where'd that one guy go? This guy. So you can see he has a white bar underneath him. That's his stagger bar. So once you get that full on an enemy, you can then do that flash step, which looks like that. That staggers them. You see that icon? That is kind of then your execution icon or prompt. So then you can hit the execution button to do a high-powered attack on him. So kind of, if it is a higher level enemy, you want to fill up that white health bar and then do a flash step, which will then allow you to do the execution move. So looking at this guy here, did the flash step that allows me to execute him, and then I can do a high damage attack. And then also, like for this particular weapon, I've got that special move on my blade, which is that you can see the blade special there. That's good for groups of enemies like this, so I can use that and then take out a big group of minions for crowd control and things like that as well. In terms of the gun, I'm not a huge fan of it. I haven't really found any of the railguns that do decent amount of damage, so I kind of just stick to my blade. But again, kind of similarly, you can see it only does 4 damage, 5 damage. So I don't know. There may be some better guns out there that I just haven't used yet, but I primarily just stick to the blade. But you can pull out your gun at any time and then fire them, obviously. And then also what I haven't demonstrated yet is the charge attack. So I like to do, especially for bigger enemies like this, kind of do a sequence of heavy charge attacks and then back out if I need to. So I can kind of go in, do a heavy charge attack, back out and take care of those guys pretty easily. And then we've also got our amp ability, which looks like that. So you can kind of throw that in the mix as well using that special attack. What else? You can do jump attacks, as you can see there. That's good for flying enemies. And then also parrying. So I'm not a big parrying person in any game that I ever play. I kind of rely on dodges a lot. So, however, you can parry, as you saw with the health regen example. See if I can see. I'm terrible at parrying. But you can parry attacks. See if I can get another shot here. So there you go. Parry ranged attacks as well as melee attacks as well. And then here's battery. So this will recharge or refill your weapon or your gun. So you can see there, got some extra battery for my gun. And then finally wrapping things up here, just taking a quick look at all of the upgrading systems and how you progress your character and get stronger. So I won't go through everything in detail, but just giving you an idea of what's available and how you go about doing it. So for the most part, this all takes place in the hub world, which you can see behind me here. There's a variety of NPCs, which we'll kind of quickly go visit as well. But if you take a quick look at your inventory screen, which we looked at earlier, you can find a modify loadout button. From here, a couple quick callouts. You'll notice there's a variety of characters that you can choose from. So I only have the starting character so far, so it looks like there's 2 available in early access. I'm sure this will change as the game progresses, as most of these are unknown and whatnot. But I imagine these have their own strengths and weaknesses. There's also a class system. So that's SciComm on the left there, and you can change that. I have 2, so you start out with Gunslinger, but then you can also unlock Tank. You'll notice the stats are different as well. So again, those kind of have their own strengths and weaknesses. Also important call out, these are not the starting stats of tank. You can also upgrade each class. So if you hit the upgrade button here, you can see you can upgrade all of these stats individually by using cores as well as abyss shards. So depending on how high level of the upgrade is, it'll start requiring more resources. So my first HP level was only 2 cores, but now it also requires an abyss shard. So kind of self-explanatory there as you can increase your classes. And then taking a look at the vendors behind us here. So currently there are 3 main vendors that you can interact with in the game, and each one kind of has its own individual upgrading system as well. So starting with the railgun vendor, you can see that here, where you can purchase upgrades that kind of give you additional perks or benefits with that particular vendor. Here, all gear is 10% cheaper. You also do need to unlock or upgrade the ability to upgrade that particular vendor's item specialty. So for this case, I haven't upgraded that for railguns, but if I had, then I could upgrade my current railgun with this guy. You can also purchase new railguns, which kind of get recycled. And then you can also refresh that by paying 150 bright blood if you don't kind of like the current list of items. And then you can sell items as well. So that's the railgun vendor. This guy is more the hollow bites and armor and whatnot. So kind of same system. You can purchase all of his upgrades. And then here you can see I could purchase some armor, a different hollow bite and whatnot, and also sell my items with him. And then the vendor that I have kind of spent some time with upgrading is the blade vendor, which is this guy. So you can see I've got 3 of my upgrades there. The kind of important one I would call out, which would maybe be worth prioritizing, is getting up to this +2 gear upgrade. So because I have this unlocked for my blades, if we go over to that upgrade tab, these are all the weapons I have in my stash, and then I can sit here and I can, as you see, upgrade this weapon. So without that +2 upgrade right here, that would be where that weapon would stop, but now because I have that, I can now upgrade it to level 5, and you can see now it's at max level. So kind of a nice perk to have to get your weapons stronger, especially if you're kind of struggling with boss fights and whatnot. I would say that's probably one of the more higher priority upgrades to get, so you can get your weapons pretty powerful there. And then the last main vendor where you can get upgrades is found back at this desk here. So we looked at this a little bit earlier when talking about the medkit upgrade, but taking a more detailed look at that, you can see all of these upgrades that you can unlock with this guy. So the way this works, you can see the slots in the bottom left corner there. So all of these upgrades you have to equip, and they take a number of slots. So I have currently 5 slots, and you can see, for example, being able to use the medkit costs 2 of those slots. Then you can also purchase slots. So if I wanted to add an additional slot, I could use a gold ration to unlock that. For example, if I wanted to equip this perk, I would need to first buy another slot. So some of these I'm not super excited about. A lot of these, honestly. For example, like this whole tree is just upgrading the amount of time you can use your hoverboard. Probably not a priority in my opinion. But as you go down the tier, there are some things. For example, I bought this one, which gives your default loadout blade an affix. So there are a couple of useful things, but a lot of these, they're nothing too great. Like this just increases your amount of vault slots. This adds an effect to your parry. And then this is the other important one that I think is probably worth upgrading, though, is you get to start with 1 key on the beginning of a cycle, which is pretty useful. So other than that, though, there are some upgrades in here. Further down the tree, you can increase your medkit capacity a little bit more. But overall, going through this list, there wasn't a whole lot I was super excited about. But again, as you get upgrade material, might as well upgrade them as well. So with that, I think I'll kind of wrap things up here. I do hope this kind of gave you a good idea of what this game is all about, though, and if you're thinking about picking it up, maybe helping to make that decision to do that or not. If you are playing the game currently, I hope you learned something, or if you're struggling, this will kind of help progress your next attempts in the overgrowth. So I'll leave you with that. Thanks for watching, and we will catch you in the next one. Bye.